Neither rain nor sleet nor gloom of night. Today is all about the mail.
This is email, Greg. The weather has nothing to do with it.
Well, except when a thunderstorm destroys my computer. Hopefully nothing like that will happen here on Extra Time next. Hey everybody, welcome to ET. Greg Lawless and Shep Messing alongside as always. Today it's all about you. We've gotten emails from you all year long. Today we're going to answer some of the last ones that we've gotten. We'll start with Jonathan, who's in Houston, Texas, and he says, with Jeff Cameron, third round draft pick, a Rookie of the Year candidate, and number one pick Chance Myers not getting much playing time, are MLS teams being careless in the Super Draft?
Yeah, Jonathan, good question, but I don't think they are. I think they're putting more emphasis on scouting, trying to determine the best college players. I'll make the argument, though, Greg, soccer is without a doubt the toughest sport to scout.
Oh, there are too many X factors involved. It's very hard to scout these guys. And you know what? They are getting better in MLS. In fact, if you look at the 2006 draft, all but two of the first rounders are still in the league and they've started to do well. It took a couple of years for some of them. Urim Sissi took him some years. Kai Kamara. It took him a little while to get there, but they're doing great.
Well, you look at the history and players like Maurice Edu and players like Marvell Wynn and Clint Dempsey and Parkhurst and Twellman. Overall, it's been okay.
All right, so Cameron's a nice surprise. Chance Myers might be a national teamer 4 years from now. We'll see. Thomas in St. Paul, Minnesota wonders, how many years before reasonably objective folks will agree that the quality of play in MLS makes MLS one of the 4 best leagues in the Americas? Which is more important to MLS, better foreign talent or better domestic talent?
Very complex question.
Really
Let's
is.
answer the first part. Major League Soccer is
already
among the quartet.
Yep.
Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, Major League Soccer. I don't think there's any doubt.
Definitely. Looking at the second question, foreign talent or domestic talent?
And I've come full circle. Back in the day that I played in this country, it was mandated you had to have 3 Americans on the field.
Yep.
So I went through a period of time where I was very pro-advocate of only the American player. Today, I couldn't care less. I don't care where you come from, where your passport is. It's important to develop young American players, but the quality of soccer is what matters, regardless of where the player's
Well,
from.
the league has done a couple of things over the last couple of years that have improved for both of those sides, too. In 2007, they mandated that all the teams have to have a youth academy. Tristan Bowen from the Los Angeles Galaxy recently signed by the team. That's huge for them. And there's also the unrestricted foreign players now, many more foreign players involved. You're also seeing the development of young foreign talent. All of this, though, is designed to help grow the league, and I think it's paying off dividends. Well, speaking of developing American talent, Noah in Manlius, New York wonders what's going on with Landon Donovan and Bayern Munich. As far as we know right now, Landon is going to be with Bayern Munich on loan in the offseason. However, it hasn't been decided yet or announced how long this loan will be.
I think it's going to be for 5 years.
It could be.
I'm rooting for Landon. I think the loan deal will get done. The question as to if they want to exercise an option.
How much?
How much is it going to be? Look, I'd love to say Landon Donovan is worth $20 million because Josie Altidore 10, but no. I think Landon Donovan, $10 million.
Devil's advocate for a second. As you just said, Josie Altidore, $10 million to go to Villarreal this past summer. Landon Donovan, obviously a better player than Josie right now, much more developed, more everything all across the board. How is he not a $20 million player?
Because clubs, Greg, in Europe, they're buying Landon Donovan for today. He's not going to get any better.
True.
It's today.
None of his price is potential.
Right. It's like buying a stock when it's low. That's what Josie Altidore is. That's an investment in the future.
The way I look at it, Landon is going to be there. I have a feeling he might actually be bought. We'll see. If he is, LA's going to have to do something. They're going to have to bring in a big-time scorer, I think. But you look at what Bruce Arena's doing, he's also going to try and build from the core out. He's going to want to get those core sort of mid-level players to be boosted as well for LA.
Yeah, I think everybody's rooting for Landon Donovan at Bayern Munich to be spectacular. Bruce Arena's got to move on.
Well, speaking about Los Angeles, Luis in Fontana, California wonders, what do you guys think of the rumor of Rafael Marquez coming to Los Angeles? Well, Shep, I'll start this one. I'll answer this one right now. Whoever started that rumor needs to get his head checked because Rafael Marquez, I don't think is coming to Los Angeles, at least not for the time being.
Yeah, Luis, wild speculation.
Right.
That's got to be unfounded. I can see Marquez coming in a couple of years if Miami has a franchise.
Certainly. Rafa Marquez, the star for Barcelona and Mexico. Barcelona involved in the Miami expansion team. And Andrew Long has a question as well from Cedarville, Ohio. Greg and Shep, who would the best fit as a DP for the Philly team be? I'm thinking a local player like Bobby Convey wouldn't be a bad pick. Shep, Bobby Convey, DP for Philly?
Bobby Convey, absolutely. I'd love to see him in Philly. No way he's a designated player. And I don't know that Philly or any team in their first year needs a designated player. Convey in Philly is a natural fit, just not as a DP.
No, and Bobby Convey, he's sitting on the bench at Reading. To me, a guy like that, he's a good player. He's fallen off the radar for the U.S. national team. He needs to start playing. Come back to MLS in 2009, join some other team, maybe have a deal in place where by 2010, when Philly joins the league, he can go and join Philly. That's the way it's going to work, but he's certainly not a DP player. How about some other thoughts in expansion teams? Carl at Illinois State University asks, I heard there was talk about Seattle trying to get some type of East Asian player on their squad to try and rally the large Asian population in Seattle. Do you know any recent news on that? Any players' names been mentioned? Well, Carl, here's the thing. As far as we know, no names have been mentioned. There is a rumor that Anjun Wan has been in contact with several teams, but I've heard that's more of a Eastern Conference thing. Nothing going on there, is there?
Yeah, look, Seattle's off to a great start. They haven't played a game. I'm not a big believer, Greg, in ethnic marketing. So you take a great Colombian player in New York or a Polish player in Chicago. Asian market is tremendous, but Seattle will do well with or without.
Right. Just get a player in there and make sure they're good and start winning, and people will show up. Eric in Woodburn, Oregon asks, with the league currently reviewing several equally impressive expansion bids, what do you feel is the best attribute a bid can have going for it?
Eric, money. Show me the money.
Moolah, dinero, whatever you want to call it.
Scratch, especially in this economy. That's nothing to joke about, and it puts some strain on the expansion bids we've seen already. So you have to have the financial stability. If you have that, you can work through the rest.
Right. The finances are most important, obviously, because there's also stadiums involved for that. Also the financial responsibilities of dealing with yearly losses. Second thing I would say, fan base is also important in there as well. Nicholas in Atlanta, Georgia says, I know there's a ton of talk about expansion in various cities, but as an MLS fan in the Southeast, there are only 2 cities I'm interested in. Between Miami and Atlanta, which of these cities do you think has the best chance of having an MLS team in the coming years?
That email is coming from Atlanta, but I think Miami has the momentum. Barcelona is pushing hard. Their president, Laporta, he is really being aggressive about it in terms of, hey, I've got the money, I will spend the money. I want to be in Miami. Atlanta's a great market with great ownership, though, but right now I think Miami has the edge.
I agree. Question for you, Nicholas. If Miami gets a team, are you going to be a fan? That's what I want to know. Well, one team who showed that any city can attract a great player was Columbus. Meyer in Washington, D.C. asks then, now that Schelotto is signed up for next season, how will Columbus fare in Champions League play?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
But it's such a long time before they take part in
That's
Champions League that I don't know what the team is going to look like. Will Schelotto still be there? Chad Marshall, will he be in Europe? Columbus has a very well-balanced, talented team. If it started today, they'd do well, but who knows what the future brings.
I agree. Schelotto, obviously, with his experience, Moreno with his experience is great. But the question is, if they lose Chad Marshall, can they replace it? Is Danny O'Rourke ready? Is Andy Iro ready to step in there? Those are big questions for them, especially at the international level. Travis in Charlottesville, Virginia asks, did MLS finally get it right, or will teams playing in multiple tournaments next year still be handicapped when the playoffs arrive? Will the roster changes help or hinder teams' success in those tournaments?
I think the league did a very good job on the balance of things, getting it right in terms of participating outside of Major League Soccer. And again, this is nothing new. The best teams all over the world play in multiple competitions. They face it in UEFA, in Champions League in Europe, South America. So that's something the league dealt with. In terms of the roster size, they tweaked it. I'm not sure they got that right.
Well, we'll see. I think Columbus is going to be the first test of it all because they're the ones who are going to have all those games with Champions League, and there's the pressure of being MLS Cup champions as well. That's going to be tough for them. Well, obviously, Columbus earned a ton of respect this year, but there were some other teams that were shouting R-E-S-P-E-C-T this year, namely RSL. A litany of emails came in from RSL fans wondering how come the Salt Lake players weren't getting any love. They weren't getting love from the league in terms of team awards and player awards, and they didn't get much love actually from the ETs either. So what's going on? How come? What's going on?
Yeah, I got to defend my partner here because Greg Lawless singled out Morales before. I didn't know who the guy was.
Couldn't even pronounce his name.
But we were both on the Salt Lake bandwagon early in
Yes,
terms
we
of the job Jason Christ did, the balance of the team. We were supporting them.
Yeah.
We gave them kudos. And Morales, if we had picked 4 top players, we only picked 3. If we picked 4, I think he would have been there.
And I do actually believe that Morales should have made it at least into the MLS Best 11. I thought he had a fantastic season, and it just didn't work out in the end. There were some great players all around the league that ended up beating him out. Moving eastward, a fan, Aaron, writes in, Chicago Fire, in my opinion, were the most talented team. What do they have to do different next year to win the Cup?
Aaron, my biggest concern for Chicago, will they keep their 2 center backs? Talk about Conde going back to Colombia or going on loan in Mexico, and Sumari leaving the team. They'll be in trouble without those 2.
Yeah, and of course, Blanco getting a little bit older, Brian McBride getting a little bit older. I think the key is Chris Rolfe. He has to show up in the playoffs a little bit more than he did this year. That's super important. Back to Columbus again, sort of. Andrew in Cedarville, Ohio says, what's your opinion of cheerleaders for MLS teams? I think it's corny and a waste of money that could be spent on better players. Oddly enough, 2 great teams have them.
Andrew, Columbus and Houston, 2 of the best teams, have cheerleaders. I don't care about capacity crowd. You're playing for the Cup final. There's no bigger motivation for the players than great cheerleaders.
And it's not like the Cruisers in Columbus really hurt the fans in the Nordic. They were great all year long with the Cruisers, and you know you watched them at halftime as well. So we finally made it out to the East. What do you think why do you think DC didn't make the playoffs? That's a question from Selvin and Alexander VA. What players from DC United will spark a 2009 comeback? That's a fan of DC United from Matt. Question.
I think DC United had a very unlucky season in terms of injuries. They have great players, Emilio and Fred, and Gallardo was hurt, Jaime Moreno. That last game against Columbus, they deserved to win the game and get into the playoffs. They didn't get the bounce of the ball. I think if they're healthy, they'll be fine next year.
Gallardo, there's talk about him maybe going back to River Plate in Argentina. I don't think it's going to happen. I think he will be the spark for them. Time now for the best question we've gotten all year long. What is going on with MLS's halftime music entertainment? The latest picks have been club acts, not stadium rockers. How do we put Greg Lawless in charge? That question comes from Seth in Salt Lake City. And Seth, you're getting an extra t-shirt for that one, by the way. I'm telling you, Def Leppard, Motley Crue, any of them, bring them in, let them rock the house. Shep, I'm sure you'd like some guys, but they're all dead, so we don't have to worry about them. And the final question for this year comes from Benjamin Mani in Switzerland. We're huge in Switzerland, by the way. How do you fill the void? What do you do during the MLS offseason? Shep, what are you going to do?
Well, Benjamin, first of all, we love having fans in
We do.
Switzerland. I'm going to go out and have a good dinner. Before you know it, Greg, we're going to be right back in the thick of things. Not too much time off. We'll be back to Major League Soccer.
There's no downtime in MLS. The Super Draft is just next month. And we are going to take some downtime, though, with extra time. This is our last show of 2008. We will be here back in January, but until then, happy holidays, happy New Year, happy MLSing, all that other stuff, and join us and we'll kick it around.